What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Non-Standard Podcast. And again, I'm joined with another phenomenal person, long time friend, probably one of the ones who's known me the longest on this podcast, all the way since high school time of 2000 and like freaking two. My main man, I used to know him as DJ Louie. Now he goes by Coach Louie, who is a strength conditioning coach over in California. And what we talk about and dive into on leadership is the fitness side of the house. How do coaches and leaders in that realm develop their own leadership skills, continue to grow their business, continue to excel, and continue to adapt in the world that is ever changing in the fitness and wellness industry? So feel free to do what you got to do after. Save, share, follow, like, leave a comment, let me know, because the more you share, the more you show support, the more I can bring some more leaderships to you guys. So without further ado, let's get this show on the road with my main man, DJ Louie. I hope y'all enjoy this episode. All right, what is up, everybody? Thanks for jumping into this episode because this one is near and dear to my heart. I didn't mention in the intro, but Louie and I go back, like way back. 2005 back. No, yeah.
Earlier than that, 2005 is when we graduated, right?
Oh, yeah, shoot. That's when we graduated high school. So 2000, 2001.
Somewhere around there, yeah. Yeah. It's about 20 plus years.
Yeah, so we went to high school together. Grew up in Northern California, which I'll just jump straight into it, Louie. The 3 H's, let's go.
Yep.
Hometown, heroes, hardship.
Hometown. Grew up, we're born up in Eureka, lived in Northern California my whole life, but I met Manny in Gridley. That's where I went to middle school, high school, graduated from there. I stuck around that area for college and all such. So hometown, Gridley. If we want to jump into the two heroes, I think, looking at, I can't really narrow it down to two, but friends and family, I would say.
Oh, yeah, you did put that. Yep, that's right. Yeah.
The group around me has really propelled myself into, spiritual, professional, and, really have grounded me throughout my life. So can't really narrow it down to two, but obviously friends and family. Yeah, I had to put one person up there. My mom, single mom, raised me. The drill there.
Yeah.
And another hero, my wife, she inspires me every day to work hard, kind of provide, and so forth. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. One thing I love about your heroes is it almost ties into a leadership trait of building your habits around the people around you, right? So Atomic Habits talks about it in their book. We build our habits based on 3 people we surround ourselves with: the many, the close, the powerful. And so, like, for you, being able to control that, or we can all control it, you have used that throughout your career, throughout your business, throughout your life. And I bet you it's changed, like that group, has been narrowed down and funneled down and picked out as we progress. But that's cool to look at that as far as a leadership trait that some people probably don't know is a trait, but it's there and it's available on how they can benefit us.
Absolutely. You want to surround yourself with the best possible, the best people around you will help you grow. Especially you surround yourself with people who challenge you every day.
Yeah.
You're going to learn something new every day. And that's always been a mantra of mine. Try to pick something up new, learn, grow from it. Growth is constant and it should remain constant because that's going to keep, at least for myself, keeps me stimulated throughout my journey. Whether it's at work with clients, coming home with my wife, being out with friends, just being in presence, listening and all of that. So I try to surround myself with people who's always going to help propel me into the next better me. And I'm sure you're doing the same way. I would probably say for most successful people, they try to surround themselves with people who challenge them every day. That's always been a key mantra of mine.
And I think that's hard too for people to do because it's scary. Like, it's scary for us to surround ourselves with people more successful because then we sometimes may feel like, oh, am I doing enough? Or am I doing it right? Or they're just doing it better than me. So I've seen some people have a hard time with that. And that's why social media is a plague for some people, but it should be a benefit for most because social media, you control who you surround yourself with right there. It's a pocket that you can have outside of the people you're close to or work with to help propel you in that area of your passion or your journey or your whatever your better is. Social media can help narrow that down.
Definitely. I feel like social media is a, double-edged sword, right? You can use it
Very, yeah,
for you, and also it can be a downfall, an epitome of a lot of jealousy, envy, and all that. I
yep,
mean, in the world, there's always going to be someone faster, stronger, richer, smarter
yep,
than you. And the opposite side of that. So you just got to know yourself and know your limitations. That's the whole thing about like learning and figuring out like what works for you and what doesn't, and then for you to grow off that, because then now you know your parameters and you know how to stay within those parameters to be safe, confident in your own abilities to kind of perform. Whether in your case you have military background, sports background, all of that. Like it all comes down to how you do under stress. And yeah, social media is great. I love comparing, getting information off of it, but at the same time, it is it's a slippery slope for certain
yeah,
people as well. Mm-hmm.
yeah. What's a hardship you got, man? Like, what can you think of that's helped propel you or get you through some things? Yeah.
Experience. When you're uncomfortable, just get out there and do it. You know, something sparks any curiosity in your life, just go out and seek it. I mean, look at you're a prime example of that. Going up in a small town, going into Air Force, doing special programs, playing collegiate football. You just jump around all these different facets of life and excel at it. And then now here you are, like complete change in profession and going into fitness and wellness and helping others grow off of that. So it's like that's the constant stimulus. I always try to challenge a lot of my friends and family. It's like, there's never too late to change what you want to do. Just find
Yeah.
something you like to do, and then when you find something you like to do, it's not work. Especially for me, like I've been training for the last 15 years, and I wake up every day and I look forward to getting up and seeing my 5 a.m. clients, and we chat early in the morning. Like I send you stuff and you're like awake, and
I was surprised this morning when you sent me that one. I was like, "Oh shit, dude,
I love that grind though. Like that's the grind. Like you can't be tired. Like you only have a certain amount of minutes in your day, and you
yeah,
can't take life for granted. And it's like every day has to be stimulated and successful. And sometimes you don't. Like sometimes you have bad days, but you brush that under the rug and you pick it up the next day and pick up the slack. And things that motivate me are just seeing the rewards and like how
yeah,
people are able to bounce back from injuries, at least in my profession. I'm a strength conditioning coach for those who don't know. So we'll get to that probably in a little bit. Started my own business in San Francisco about 9 years ago. And, built my whole business off of injury mitigation, injury prevention, a lot of focus on mobility training. And then from there, piggybacking off of strength conditioning, athletic performance. I mean, whatever you want, like, but for the basis, like learning how to learning the biomechanics of your body and advantages of those biomechanics allows at least my clients to train within a safe parameter. And if they want to push it, then they have to know the risk of like, okay, I'm training 3 to 4 times a day or 3 to 4 times a week, 2 times a day, because I'm trying to train for an Ironman or so forth. But with that type of exposure to that much stimulus, things break down. So that's why you provide your clients with or at least I provide my clients with those tools. Okay, when you're feeling this way, this is how you're going to navigate through those injuries. Or before you hit this type of volume, this is what you need to do prerequisite wise so your body is able to adapt to that type of volume as well. So it's all fun science. It's amazing. It's truly amazing what your body can do, especially when you use your own body as an experiment. It's endless. I mean, look at your journey. I'm going to use you for example, since it's your podcast and people know you. You've gone from powerlifting and doing all that to like running and really like cutting down, and like you're putting your body through all of the tricks and tips that you give to your clients, so that way they can trust you and like, okay, well, if Manny tells me this, he's done it before. I'm able to trust him, and that's one of the huge things too. Like being able to portray yourself and allowing people to trust you in that, because you're pretty much responsible for what you're telling them to do. So you want to make sure that you set them up for success and make sure that they excel and achieve those goals. And our job, at least for me, it's like, what can I do to help you set up goal 1 and then go all the way into like whatever goal 50 in like 2 years. So yeah.
Yeah, that's what I love about obviously the strength conditioning fitness side of the house. And I think that's also what's hard about that side of the house is we're just going to dive right into my leadership philosophies because we already covered the first three,
Hmm.
and I'll hit them as it relates to what you're doing. So, because the reason I love doing this podcast is because I get people from the military who in the military we're sort of taught and all this leadership stuff, but in the civilian side I love talking to people because in the leadership side of this house, especially when you're your own business, your own coach, there may not be a lot of people there to teach you from the higher up leadership aspect of growth, and so you're learning a lot. And I think one of the key ones anybody can really apply is lead by example in all you do, because it's one of the easiest way to show leadership, just like you're saying as strength conditioning coach or anybody in the fitness industry, is you have to be able to speak about what you're teaching your clients. So either you've gone through it or you know somebody really close or you're trying to go through it, even though you're not the best at it. So leading by example there, and it doesn't have to be in the gym, it's just in your life.
In your life.
Understanding like people are going to judge you a lot, especially as a coach where you're in person all the time. There's
Yeah.
probably things you do throughout your day where you're, hey, I need to make sure I do that right because, they're watching me.
Yeah. And even if they're not watching, like, you have to look yourself in the mirror every day and,
Oh, yeah,
be honest
for
with
sure.
yourself. It's like, would you hire a strength conditioning coach that never barbell back squats? Like, so it's like,
Yeah.
you have to put yourself through those type of trials and tribulations. I have to understand what this feels like. What is a pinch or a sciatica feels like when it's like agitated, right? Like, I hope I don't get there, but it's like, okay, my back's feeling a little sore. I need to do some mobility that's going to help alleviate some of that soreness. And it's like, now I've done it. I can relate to it. After I relate to it, I test it again, and then I give it to my clients. And that's one of the biggest things that I've had success with in my business is, the injury prevention thing is key, especially with like the older demographics.
Yeah.
Even the younger demographics, like, it's just people don't like to be in pain. And back in the day, it's like, okay, work through the grind. It only hurts. You'll get through it later. We're getting smarter with all the sciences now. It's like, there's no need to work through the pain. I mean, game time situations. And yeah, like you got adrenaline pumping, but for a 45-year-old person who works in an office who's just trying to get some leg strength in, and I'm not going to have them, hey, don't skip that, keep working through it, power through it. It's just little pain, little no pain, no gain. Like that mantra is just old. Like now it's
Yeah,
like,
and I
okay,
think we've also realized we have time.
we
When I
have
say
time.
time to see results.
Well, here's the thing:
Uh,
injured, you can't work out. So
yeah,
you
yeah,
know that's the thing. Like, or you're, I want to say, stupid enough, but like you're not disciplined enough to treat that before you go back into working out. So it's like, us as professionals to help guide our friends, family, clients like the best we can. And it's like making sure that they can have longevity in that. I'm not competing for anything right now. Like, there's nothing for me to like train and really beat myself up for. But, for certain individuals, a very, very small demographics, you do have to, people are going to want to work through that pain because they have a goal or a
yeah,
competition or whatever it is in mind to achieve there. So, finding that balance between civilians and then people who want to train that are competitive athletes, military that need to actually work through some of that. So I can't really relate to that as much, but at least in my demographics, I would say 80% of my clients are civilians.
nice. Yeah. And then my second one is to be selfless. You have to be selfish.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, and what do you think of that one, man? Like, I don't know, like, what comes to mind?
Um, I agree. I think you have to really focus on yourself, and really take the time to build your character before you start to be selfless for other people. Because if you can't really push your threshold and you're trying to tell your clients, hey, you need to push it to this threshold, how are they able to trust you? So I think with
Yeah.
that comes more of a trust issue or a trusting relationship. So, getting focusing on yourself, building yourself to the best ability that you can, and then integrating those type of characteristics and sharing those with others is a good approach to life. Obviously, there's a fine boundary between being too selfish
Yep.
and then
Yeah.
spending too much time, but I think we have the people around us to kind of check us if that ever came down to it.
That's good. Yeah, and that's some of the feedback I've had on that line is they mentioned to me like, "Hey, selfish is a tough word because people may take it too extreme, right? They
Mhm.
may just only worry about themselves in a team environment, And so I've been dabbling on like, okay, I might change that one a little bit to make it, a little bit easier on the eyes. But then at the same time, I like it pretty direct because, like to take care of others, you literally have to take care of
You
yourself.
have to take care of yourself. It's like, how can I dish this
Yeah,
information out when I can't even count on myself to complete this, right? Like,
exactly. Yep.
for
Yeah.
example, like they use this in AA. Why are you going to listen to a person who still drinks and is teaching an AA meeting, right? You got to be able to control and learn those type of traits before you even portray those type of traits. So, take
Yeah.
the time to work on yourself, whatever that is, mental, spiritual, emotional, physical, and then apply that to training, life, everything
Yeah. And
else.
then one thing that's cool about that one is if you do focus on a spiritual or a financial or like a different aspect, it's going to help the other ones too. So
Mm-hmm.
like, let's say you're like, oh, I don't want to like focus on going to the gym to be selfish, but I
Mm-hmm.
want to get better religion. So, maybe they start reading the Bible. It's probably going
Absolutely.
to start affecting other areas of that pyramid or that pentagon, whatever their other priorities are that
Mm-hmm.
they may not see in the big picture, but they'll start getting better at.
There's many facets, right? You can't really just be one-sided, right? You
Yeah.
have to be a multifaceted individual to be interesting and to be well-rounded. So, well-rounded speaks for itself. There's 360 degrees of surface right there. So, whatever it's devoting one time in one area, it's like trying to balance that all out. And that's another like thing too, like being selfish, but being selfless as well. So it's like you got to find that balance. It's a teeter-tottering effect.
Yeah.
Some days you can take a little bit more, some days you can give a little bit more, but
Yep.
at the end of the day, it all comes back to you. So that's more of the holistic side or the spiritual side talking. But I found out being 36 years old, and you give back to the community, not looking for anything back, and community always will be there for you, and they'll
Yeah.
remember. They might not tell you at the point, like my clients might not tell you, hey, this is really working. They might seem like they're really bored when I'm having them roll on a foam roller from prepping, but it's like I'm doing this for the better good of yourself, and hopefully you can realize that, and then I don't expect anything back, but there's usually a common compliment after that, like a few months into the program, like, wow, my legs feel great. Like I don't have this particular issue anymore. And like, that's rewarding to me. And like,
Yeah.
that's what makes me have that drive every morning. So it's that balance of giving, taking, and then figuring it out. And like, that's life, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that you already mentioned the third one, which is build relationships based off trust and care. You were literally like, hey, to be it's self-ish, to be selfless. Sometimes you have to have relationships with those people to help them get where they're going.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some easy ways? I guess if we were just to throw out a couple ways, how can people build relationships and off trust? How what are some easy things to do in like
Um,
a work setting or with clients or
be
you know?
yourself. I think in a professional setting, be professional. Don't let your issues at home, issues with your friends, kind of bleed into a professional setting, and vice versa, right? Don't let your work bleed
Yeah,
out into your home. Like whatever frustrations, joy, all of that, share it, express it, but don't let it affect those different areas of your life. Another thing, I live by this. Keep it super simple. Kiss.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
don't overcomplicate things, especially when you're starting to build new relationships. Like, you don't need to be Dan 100%. Like, just be Dan, and like, own up to, be honest, be yourself. No need to bend your personality to kind of fit the mold of an individual. Like,
yeah,
those are always been key things. Those are things I learned later in life too. When I was
yeah,
20 years old, getting into this thing, I was always say things to try to please other people, but then that wasn't me. Like I needed to take that time to learn and do all of that stuff. So, I just learned to be yourself, and if you don't know it, own up to it. Be honest. Like goes back to it. Just say you don't
yeah.
know it. Always going to be
I had
someone
that.
who's willing
I
to
had
help
that
you.
same issue earlier in my military career where being new to a squadron, I was doing a lot for those around me to sort of like me, right? Or like make me feel in. So I was like flying more. I was doing more on the schedule to sort of fit in. But at the
And burn
same
out.
time, I wasn't doing it for me. And then later on down the road, I sort of looked back and I was like, man, I I could have still got to where I am today without that aspect of my life of trying to fit into that mold instead of just being myself. And work its way out towards the end.
And who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
that's all part of the growing pains, right? Like,
Yep.
you know, I've been turned down for employment a few times. Like, it is what it is, and you learn from it, and you take it with a grain of salt. And that's what I mean by being professional. Like, thank you for the opportunity. Let me know what I can work on. I'll be back if I want this. And that's the mindset you have to really create and fortify yourself into. Like, you know, I wish I would have knew more about fortifying my mind and having a mental capacity and mental strength to kind of go through some of these hardships and tribulations.
Yeah.
That was, you know, as a small business owner, individual business owner, like you have to learn these things. And sometimes you take a financial dip. Sometimes you, like when COVID hit, what am I going to do and pivot my business? I can't do one-on-ones. Luckily, there's virtual sessions, and you know, I was able to have the clients who were open to that. I've lost some clients who weren't open to that because it's like, why am I paying this rate when I'm looking at you through a screen? It's like, okay, well, this is what I can give you, and this is what I can bet. This is what you can benefit from it, and just learning how to pivot. That's another big thing in life that I've learned is to adapt, and adaptation is crucial. Things can go 180 really quick, and being able to adapt and stay calm and stay true to your own abilities is another really good mantra that I try to follow.
Nice. Yeah, that leads me right into my last one, man. It's like you're just leading down the train here, but challenge the road in front of you, getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, it sort of is adapting, right? Like you sort of talked about it. Hey, when COVID hit, I couldn't do the same things I was doing before, so I had to get uncomfortable get comfortable being uncomfortable by going through virtual sessions or understanding, hey, I might take a dip here, so here's what I got to do. What are some ways you've seen people when I say challenge the road, like do new things, look outside the box, like there's all those sayings you can use, but
yeah, so I think like within health and wellness, for example. So I have my background in pre-physical therapy, right? Like you can read all you want in textbooks until you actually see like someone who comes in with 2 ACL or MCL repairs. And it's like, oh wow, like this is a completely different treatment approach. I have to be tactile and learn and really actually feel and touch. And it's like constant learning, man. Like you got to put in that time. If you don't know it and someone's trusting you with their lives and trusting you with their knees, for example, like you better know your stuff or be honest with yourself. If you don't know it, steer them in the right direction. Because I've seen many times before in our profession where people fake it or like they say, oh, I know it. And then people get more injured. And I'm not about that. I'm usually a person who just steps in and be like, yo, that's completely incorrect. Like the weight load and weight distribution on this is not correct. Like look at the valgus. There's a lot more load on the medial side of the knee. Like you can see that obviously. And, you know, you have to learn how to talk to people when you're correcting them. And that's another big thing. No, all good. That communication was crucial too. Like you can't just say, hey, you're wrong. I'm right. People don't take that lightly. So, you know, learning how to conversate, teach, and coach. That's another thing that what I really love is building a network of people around me and working as a team. And like I always look at like other trainers as collaborators rather than competitors because we're all here trying to help people. Like why are we competing and arguing over this? Like let's figure something out together so we can help this individual. And you see that a lot on social media. You jump on a video and people are commentating this and that. It's like, okay, yeah, we can have point A and point B, but we're all going to get to the same area. Let's figure out a solution together. And it's like all this bickering. It's like, come on, like none of y'all make sense. Let's dial it back down. Let's focus on the basics, keep it simple, and let's kind of work backwards or retrospectively or work forward and figuring out a solution for this particular individual rather than just doing gibberish online. And that goes same with a gym setting. You know, back in the early 2000s, I felt that a lot with PTs and trainers, so physical therapists and trainers. Yep. They would always say, oh, like, you don't know this and you don't know that. Like the modalities overlap in a sense where it's like, okay, myofascial release, balance, proprioceptive training, all of that overlaps. Like we can all learn this material and like be collaborative and helping the group as a whole or an individual as a whole rather than I'm better than you. I'm better than you. I know this more. I know that more. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. But let's work together and help someone and help. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I love about the fitness industry is obviously there's multiple facets of fitness, which some people may not know. Maybe they just think it's just going to the gym and getting a trainer. But you've already hit. There's the PT side. My wife doing the OT side is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the strength conditioning side. Then there's like sports specific side. Texas is huge on
It's huge.
sports specific training for high schoolers and college athletes. Like there are guys down here, which I love that they love it because they will pay people anything to coach their kid on.
Oh yeah.
And so we have a guy at the gym I go to. He's just a sports specific coach for high schoolers. So he trains high schoolers throughout the year on specific sports skills. And I look at his workouts and they're just strength training workouts. And I'm like, bro, that is such a crazy concept that, yeah, I'm training your kid to be better in baseball, but he's having to do squats. And I'm like, oh, okay. But, and so and I've collaborated with them too. And I love collaborating with fitness people because sometimes working with them to help their clients in the nutrition side is hard for them sometimes to let that go because they think like, no, my client, my results. But if I'm like, dude, I can help them keep that weight off, gain a little more muscle, their protein, while you hit them in the gym, dude, they're going to love you for it.
Well, that's where, like, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the trend. Like back in the days, like you'd go to a gym, everyone's kind of doing their own thing, right? Now you got these global workout complexes. So it's like you can go into a gym and you can have someone who specializes in, VO2 max training, and you can have someone who is a mobility expert, and then you can have someone like yourself who only specializes in weight training. And like having those three people to help a specific athlete, that's going to give them more gains than working with one person and then having to work with someone else for like 3 months. Like get all the minds together. If you need to break it up in like, if it's an hour session, let's talk about it. Like, okay, you're going to spend 10, 15 minutes with a VO2 specialist, cardiovascular endurance specialist. And then, let's break that down, get your warm up in, get your body warmed up. And then you're going to start to work on your mobility after you hit a VO2 max exercise for a sub VO2 max exercise. And then we're going to train while you're fatigued. And that's going to, that's going to mimic a fourth quarter drive or something like that when you're fatigued, your brain's stimulated, or you're tired. And it's like, how can we extract that and mimic that type of situation? Because that's where athletic training and sports performances come to nowadays. Like we want to be collaborators. We don't want to be competitors. Like at the end of the day, like I said, it's the client. It's not about
that's exactly it. That's the end of the day goal is to get that person to the best capability possible. That's cool.
That's what I love about the sport, right? Like love about like the profession right now. It's like everyone has their skill set, and it's like everyone is good. There's a lot of people that are good at what they do, and it's like finding that concoction, that perfect recipe. Some people like a little bit more salt, some people want a little bit more strength training. Let's put it that as a reference, right? Some people like a little bit more sweet and want a little bit more mobility. It's like you have to find a group of professionals who are willing to kind of provide that taste or that stimulus for that particular client or individual. And that's why having a network of people is so great. And especially with like the virtual stuff now, like I was like, hey, you're going to call so-and-so on the East Coast. He's a lacrosse specialist. He's going to develop some movements for you. Here's my friend in Texas. He's a biomechanist. He's going to develop some postural work for you to help you kind of get a little bit more rotation on your throw. Whatever it is, like it's just so many different combinations, and it's like overwhelming at some point. But if you always go back to the basics, keep it simple, figure out what they need, start from there, and then be honest with yourself. And then it allows you to kind of like reference. I don't know much about this. I'm going to send you out to my friend. That's okay. Like, at the end of the day, money's money. Like it is what it is. Like I want to make sure that particular individual is getting the best treatment possible. And that, that goes to like the individual as well, or the professional as well. Like how ethically grounded are they? Because, being in a big city like the Bay Area, like you do see a lot of trainers that are just training, right? All right, we're going to do 3 sets of 15 squats. We're not going to log any numbers. You're going to go to an RPE scale of 7. Okay, how am I going to look next week? I don't know. We're just going to go to another RPE scale. If you're tired, squat this much. No, I need something metrics to track. Like that's another thing too. Like, finding that ethical boundary, like what, I'm not going to talk bad about other people, but like, you know the drill, you've seen it. Like people just want to go out there and just make the money. And, I think individuals like us, like I want to make sure the athlete performs. I want to make sure like you're going to get to the goal, whatever you need to get to. I want to make sure your pain goes down so you can actually play with the kids. Like whatever that goal is, like let's get there.
Yeah, and I think a couple of them you already covered on some additional leadership traits is you talked about having those clear expectations with your client to begin with.
Absolutely.
So that they're not caught off guard when you're like, hey, I'm going to send you to a guy virtually in this world. They're probably going to be like, wait, what? I thought I hired you to be my trainer. No. Like, so when you have those relationships, you have those established guidelines for them to get the best results. If they know it's for them, they understand it. So you talked about one of mine is meeting new people or networking, right? Like that is, and I didn't realize it until, man, when did I actually start? Like probably 10 years into the military when I was sort of like, man, networking is pretty important. Like, and I've always been a pretty social guy. And so like, I always just had friends, but, I make it a point now most of the time when I go to a place to meet somebody new in the gym. And it's not necessarily a networking key. It's just to meet people. And then it builds from there, building those relationships and meeting new people.
It's almost like finding something new to learn every day, right? Meet someone new. Like you never know what that person can offer you and not offer you in your life, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like you say hi. You're just being nice, being, social, being just being nice. Like, and if they have something to help you with your profession or with your life, then that's a bonus. But like I always try to make it, I try to make it a way to like say hi to people when I'm at the gym or like randomly try to start a conversation. Sometimes they look at me weird. Sometimes it's a really meaningful conversation, and you can learn a lot about other people's experiences too without having to actually experience them. So it's like, when back in the days when there were I'm sure it still is, but like Uber or Lyft shared, like I love sparking up random conversations in those, just being that random person. Oh, what do you do? Like,
I just love talking to my Uber driver whenever I go places. I would just because they know the town more than me, so I would get in the car and be like, "Hey, man, where do I go? Like, what's up?
What's the best place to eat?" Like those are the skill sets that going up in a small town. Like we just knew everyone, so we expected.
Oh yeah,
going to a metropolitan city, like that's a necessity. Like you need to be able to, conversate and actually like get out of that comfort zone as you were talking about earlier, and like branching out. And I mean, it's not for everyone. Some people are introverted, extroverted. I get it. But like for me, I was an introvert growing up. But like being able to be confident and like speaking, just not even having a deep conversation, just saying hi and see where it goes. Hey, how are you doing? Okay, good. That's it. All right. See you later.
yeah."
Have a good day.
And I think also leads into a word of mouth aspect that you talked about when you work with clients or people, and then they tell somebody else about you. Like, let's say you were just talking to get to know somebody and they weren't your client, but they were talking to somebody else. Somebody was like, man, I need this. I'm looking for a coach to do something. This guy goes, oh, I just met somebody a couple days ago. He said hi to me. He seemed pretty nice. I think that's what he does. Like, I can ask him for his number next time I see him. Like, word of mouth is huge. And sometimes those, it's so underrated.
Yeah, referrals are huge.
Yeah.
I haven't had an advertisement. I don't have a website. I don't have an advertisement. I don't have a website. I don't. All my clients are referral based. I'm 30. I have a 30 client list right now with a pretty good wait list, so I can just fill in slots. Like, and that just it just speaks for the work that you do. Like if you're good at what you do and you're trustworthy and people know that they can count on you, you're reliable and you're honest, you're going to be sought after. And it goes with any profession. Just providing that type of service when they're looking for it, and providing a good service. So being a personal trainer, it's like if someone asks for XYZ and you give them ABC, you're probably not going to last in this industry for very long. And when you do help someone and they succeed, it's like they're always going to be ecstatic of sharing their journey with their friends. And then their friends are going to be like, oh, well, Joe over here rehabbed his shoulder. Like they told him he couldn't throw a ball. And now he's playing catch with his kids. What's going on there? Who's he working with? And that sparks that interest. And it goes back to like, just meeting people and like sharing your passion. And people, you can see like when people like what they're doing, they can talk about it. Like,
they're going to talk about it. Yeah.
We can talk about this all day. Like, I'll see you working out. Hey, I'm going to send you this exercise. Non-solicited. Take it with a grain of salt. Like, I'm just trying to give you another perspective on it. Like, do it if you want to do it. Don't do it. It's all good. That's the same thing. Like, I just like to interject sometimes my like opinion and like my perspective, and it could be overwhelming sometimes, I would say. Like some people just don't want to hear it, and that's fine. Like I expect them to tell me, it's like, Dan, I'm on my own program. Sure, I'll leave you alone. But if I feel like if I can give you some information that's going to give you um, a different stimulus or a beneficial attribute to what you're trying to gain, then I'm just going to interject myself and be like, hey, this is why I feel like it should be this way. And this is why.
Yeah.
If you don't want it, fine. But put it in your back pocket and maybe revisit later. But at the end of the day, it doesn't cost me anything. Like I'm just here. I'm just talking.
Yeah, you also mentioned another one, which is like always be learning, right? So obviously in the fitness industry, it is still like a learning industry, you know, like since like probably say the mid 90s is when it really started, like training started taking off, you know, supplements were starting to get there. There was like the big brands like Muscle Tech and those guys in the 2000s, I think is when a lot of the research and all that started. But now I feel like the research is catching up with those people who are doing the research. So now they're able to talk about it.
Well, now they have data points. Now they have like, 10 plus,
True.
5+ year studies that they can actually go back and be like, okay, well, this worked. I mean,
Yeah.
think about it back in the days. Like you got the 5x5 programs, right? Like how many high schools are really doing that anymore? Now it's more like they have cycles of hypertrophy, like
Yep.
in season training. Like it's changed. Like back when we played football, super squats,
Yeah.
max squat, 20 reps, max, whatever weight. Like that's, I don't know. Like, was that beneficial? We got wrong. Like, was that what we should be doing? It's like, we didn't have a hypertrophy phase in the training and weight training and all that. So it's like, just with anything, technology, finance, there's constant change, there's constant pivots. And it's like, there's going to be constant information that is going to be pushed into the market that is real and false. And it's up to us to kind of find those studies and find those experiences to kind of build that information to provide to our clients, and like constantly learning. Like, if you feel like something is not correct, take your experience and your knowledge and try to integrate that into a formula and figure it out, like, and provide that information to your clients. Because a lot of my clients are always asking, what diet's great? Like, what
Yeah,
exercise?
that's what I was just going to ask you. Like, how do you deal with being in the fitness industry where there is a lot of fad stuff, and your clients come to you with, "Hey, I saw this cold plunge or this sauna,
Oh yeah.
or this or this." Like, how do you, like, what do you do?
What are your goals?
There you go.
That's what I
Yeah,
ask.
that's one of the best answers. That's how it is for me when somebody goes, "I want to lose weight." I'm like, "What's your goal?"
What's your
Oh,
goal? Like,
okay, cool. Like,
is it intrinsic? Is it extrinsic? Are you losing weight for a wedding? Are you losing weight
yeah,
for your joint issues? Are you losing weight because you're pre-diabetic? Like, there's so many different things. It's like, let's sit down and have a conversation and like build out a plan for this. And that's what I mean by like being able to communicate well and like being able to tell people, it's like, hey, look, that might be wrong. This is why I think it's wrong. As long as you have like a explanation of why you believe it, and you can break down the explanation, more people are willing to listen to that. And that's the whole thing about debate. Like, we don't have that like thing. Like on the internet, it's more like, I'm gonna type this, send it, and then I'm gonna stand by this regardless. And like people trying to debate online, like you can't debate online. Like there's no way on social media, Instagram, Facebook, that you can debate any topic. Especially like, those topics that we don't touch, religion and politics and all that. You can't.
yeah. Especially if people were trying to debate Deflategate with me. I was like, "No, you can't do this with me right now."
Like let's sit down and like have a person, like a one-on-one talk, and like let's talk about this and like let's figure out, why do you think like this, why do you think like that. So when clients ask me, should I cold plunge, should I sauna, which sauna, infrared or like steam, like whatever it is, like, okay, what are your goals, and then we figure out like, do you have any health issues that are going to be implicit to what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. Like a couple of diet fads, like intermittent fasting was like a big thing for the last like couple of years. Switching over to like keto or paleo and doing all that. Like, I did that for a couple of years, and was that beneficial? I got really lean, but I also felt lethargic on some of the activities that I did. So now like I integrated carbs back in, like rice and like stuff like that. And it's like I found a hybrid diet. And like I always tell people, if you want what's best for you, you might have to find a hybrid model. It might not be 100% this and 100% that. You might have to take 50% here, 50% there, 20, 20, and 20. Whatever it is, let's find what works for you, but you have to try it. People ask, should I be doing cold plunges every day? It's like, well, do you have access to that? One, it's like, well, I'm going to turn on the shower. It's like, well, your shower's not going to get cold enough. So like you need to submerge your body in it. It's like, that's how you're going to get that stimulus, is that constant shock. And it's like, you just got to provide them with information. And that's where it comes down to us to be constantly learning and being informative and up to date with that information. Because that's another thing too. Like South Beach diet. Do you hear about that anymore? That was the big thing in the 90s. A lot of my clients are older and they're like, well, I did South Beach in the 90s and it worked. And it's like, okay, so you're just, carb counting and let's just do macros, like count your macros. Look, that's where it's at right now. Like counting your macros, how much energy are you burning a day? Like how clean are your macros? When are you eating? How are you eating? All of that stuff. There's just so much information now. Like so many. You just can't ask a question. Like you have to figure out why, when, how, what, and then we can maybe come up with a loose answer. And then let's try it. And then after you try it, now let's figure out what works and what doesn't work. Okay. Plunging doesn't really help with your energy level in the morning. It's like, all right, let's try to stimulate your body a different way with thermogenic training. Go on a run, increase your body temperature and let's see if that helps spark some metabolism of your day. That doesn't work. Okay, well, let's try to start your day off with more fats. So that way you can use fats as the primary source of fuel. And then you can go into some ketosis. And then at lunchtime after your intermittent fast, now we can, pump your body up with carbs and proteins and see how your energy level is midday. So like, there's just so many different variables that create a very difficult and complex question to answer when it's so vague. So I just tell my clients, like, look, let's sit down, let's figure out what your goals are, and then let's figure out what your main questions are, and let's focus on those variables. So once you start changing too many things, you can't really direct what's working and what's not. I approach those questions usually with like a two variable sequence. So it's like, let's focus on two things to work on. That way we can, from those two things, there's always going to be other attributes that we can kind of fine tune. But like, let's focus on your sleeping and then your diet. And then let's see how that affects it. I'm really low on energy. Okay, now I got some more information. Now let's fine tune those variables. And, give it like 4 weeks. 4 to 8 weeks is usually a good rule of thumb for me to kind of adjust. And then it also, that's another thing too. It's like, as a paying client, how can I trust this trainer with 8 weeks of my time when I'm not
try something?
Exactly. But
that's tough.
Conversation is like you have to have that information ready for them and explain why. You need 8 weeks because if you have a bad habit, it's going to take a few weeks to kick that habit. If you drink 3 sodas a day, and I'm telling you, hey, you got to go clean out your pantry and focus on water and get some more electrolytes and stuff in. You're not going to see that sugar craving go away for like maybe weeks or months. Like you've been drinking soda for like 5-10 years. So it's like everyone's different, and learning how to portray those little small short-term goals is really, really a key component on helping them achieve their long-term goals. And that all goes with just the sports psychology concept of it. It's like making sure that people are comfortable, confident, and true and persistent with that program, because you've been in the situation. Here's the workout. This is what we did today. I'll see you next week. Let's see if there's any progress. Next week comes around. Oh, I totally forgot. Like the accountability things. Like how can we teach our clients how to be accountable and like build that mental fortitude at a early stage? And it goes back to that main thing I talked about in the beginning: keeping it super simple, setting up for success. And I use that in my everyday life. If it's too complex, too complicated, I tend to kind of taper off sometimes. So it's like, keep it simple, focus on 1 or 2 things. And that's how I kind of change habits of mine.
Nice. Yeah, I like it because you brought up something that we do in the military that we talk about a lot as well. Is if I'm a leader or a supervisor or somebody and somebody comes to me with a problem, if I hear a solution after, it makes it so much easier to adapt to. And you talked about it with your people as well. Like, hey, here's what we're going to do this, but we're going to do this. So you even brought it up too. And I was like, oh, I thought that was just like a military thing, like for every problem, because everybody's always going to bring you a problem. So when you brought up like, oh, I just want to make sure somebody has a solution to it, or I'm going to bring a solution to it, and I was like, oh, okay, that was cool to hear. because we talk about it all the time. And so I was like, that's nice. Okay.
It's just planning. It's like,
Yeah.
how can we solve this situation? And like when someone asks a question that seems so basic, like from an outsider's perspective, like I just want to lose weight. Okay. What do you do? What's your daily lifestyle like? When do you have time to work out? What are you eating? What type of food are you eating? How are you making that? What are you eating? Like all those different variables all kick on.
It's a lot.
It's a complex question. And like, you hear these trainers like push these videos out sometimes. You need to do X, Y, Z. Sure. That's great information. You're already fit. Someone that has back like a lot. I see this a lot on like mobility videos on Instagram and YouTube and all that. It's like, oh yeah, fix your back pain in 3 exercises. Usually it's like a pigeon stretch, hamstring stretch, and like a lower back stretch. Okay, what if they have a slip disc and you're not really paying attention to that? Like, it's great that people are putting content out for that particular stuff, but they got to be very, very careful because there hasn't been any like negligence or negligence charges on influencers yet. So, but it's a you got to be careful when you answer those questions, especially as a health professional. Like you got to make sure you protect your clients and protect the people that are paying you for that type of information or following you for that type of information too, and how you portray it.
Yeah, that's great to hear as far as, like the big things, build relationships, get to know the person, ask tons of questions, like front end heavy with it to keep it simple so that they understand the rest of the process. They need to know where you're going with it, when you're going to change it, not as it happens, because you're probably going to lose them by then if you're not telling them you're going to change something next week. They're going to be like, wait, what? Having all this front loaded, keeping it simple for them makes the long run a lot easier.
Just being transparent, like communication is transparent. Like,
I think one of mine as well. Yeah, transparency. So
one of the biggest things I had when I first started doing like private training was like people only thought like you can contact me within that hour. Like this is all I have. Like no, text me. Like you are my client. Like you're gonna have questions when you're sitting at home or you're sitting at a grocery store and like, what do I buy? Do I buy this or that? Send me a picture of it. If I can't get to it, I'll get to it soon, or we'll discuss it next session. Like I like that. At least that's just how I ran my business. I like that constant conversation, constant transparency. Like if you have a question, just shoot it away. Like, yeah, you pay me for this time, but questions come up. Like there's been times where I'm learning something new. It's like, I wish I could email the professor, or like email this person, whatever. And with social media now, you can just kind of DM. But if someone with like thousands of followers, like it's hard for them to keep track. So like with their own clients, I always try to push like contact me anytime, as long as it's like related to that, not like, hey, what are you doing? Like just banter. Like if it's a legit question, I'm gonna do my best to kind of find some time to answer that. Because instead of waiting, if some people is training once a week or twice a week, like they got to wait 2-3 days to get that answer. That's not fair. So like getting that information to them in a timely manner is also key, especially at the beginning stages of training or in the beginning stages of with a new client.
Yeah. Helps build that accountability, helps build that trust and relationship, just like you said.
Or just relationships in general. Like, you need a new friend, like they're wondering what you're doing, like don't blow them off the first week you meet them. Like
so to keep you with your time as well, what's a good book recommendation you got for people out there that may be trying to learn, just how to better themselves, to do some stuff?
Let's see. Right now, I'm reading a book called Outlive. It's by Dr. Peter Attia, Attia, and he talks about fitness 2.0 and exactly what we're talking about, how things have evolved, and we can't really focus on like, you need to exercise 60 minutes a day and that's it. Like it's 45 minutes of vigorous activity. You got to hit that heart rate target, and then also on that, focus on the spiritual and mental aspect, the nutrition aspect. It's a really good book. It's written by a doctor. So maybe,
Outlook, you said?
Outlive.
Okay.
I'll send it to you after we log off. But focuses on like how to be better and like ameliorate symptoms from like the big chronic diseases, atherosclerosis, heart disease, diabetes, all that. Like it feels like it's stuff that every textbook talks about, but this person really goes a little deeper on like how to change your lifestyle and how to think outside of the box. So I feel like you would really love it. I'm only like a couple chapters in and I'm sucked into it already. So Uh,
Nice.
it has a lot of science-based information rather than just gibberish and like fads and all that. So he backs it up with studies, references, and it's a big read. But people like us who like to geek out on this stuff, it's really good.
Nice. The book I will throw out there. I always try to throw one out at the end, and I've done all the ones behind me on my past ones. So it's called Endure.
Endure.
I don't know who the author is, but it's about sort of the governor in our mind that prevents us from going like 100%. So David Goggins talks about it in one of his books. He talks about the governor, which is like a switch in your mind that prevents you from
that limiter.
physically. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So it's a book called Endure that sort of hits it a little bit more on the scientific side. It talks a little bit more about like how to push through those boundaries to exceed a little bit more on the physical side.
Awesome.
I'll send you a picture too. So yeah,
I'll have to check it out. Yeah. Outlive, it's great. I really like how he's portraying and pushing that information out now, because like, you know, what worked in the 70s and 80s and what kind of guidelines we developed then, it's like just science, it evolves, right? We evolve. The diseases are kicking in more, and like more people are pre-diabetic now than ever. So like, you know, what can we do to kind of reduce those type of risks, especially in our children and the future generation that come before us? It's like, you know, is it a food? Is it like how we exercise? Is it, you know, the time we take for ourselves to kind of help with our mental stress? Do stress affect that? Use stress and de-stress, good stress and bad stress. So like, I geek out on all that. I love that stuff. So it's like,
I know, man. I feel like we can go deep down a rabbit hole on some of these topics next time.
I love to be back. Like whenever you have time and no slap with me, like let's find some other topics to talk about. This has been great.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. I appreciate you taking your time. I'll reach out to you back when I get ready to post this to get like some of your contact info, and we'll throw that in the show notes too.
Yeah. So who you got? Super Bowl?
Who do I got in the Super Bowl?
Oh yeah.
I'm going bang bang, boy. Let's go.
Yeah, baby. Let's see if pull it off. I'm excited for it though.
We're going to the Pro Bowl this weekend, so I'm going to wear my Gardner Minshew shirt. Hopefully, I can get a picture with him. Yeah.
What? Oh,
yeah, my wife and I are taking an early anniversary trip, just us two, for 4 days to Orlando. So,
man, you're gonna have a blast.
Yeah, we're excited. She's gonna wear her Eli Manning jersey because her Eli and Peyton are the coaches for it.
I know. Eli's undefeated in the Pro Bowl as a coach.
So we're looking forward to a different form of football and just us two. So it'll be good.
It's gonna be fun atmosphere. You're gonna be surrounded with football fanatics. I mean, it's gonna be a blast. Awesome, Manny. Well, thank you for having me. You guys have a good day.
Yeah, and then we'll just wait a little bit